and a new right for unlawful immigrant minors in the U.S. government detention to obtain immediate abortion on demand. With his decision in this case, do we even have to question where Kavanaugh will side on immigration rights in Roe? With the Trump administration constantly concocting new ways to block immigration and harm immigrants already in this country, it is imperative that the Senate block Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. Cases on DACA, TPS, and even public charge could all reach his jest during his time as a Supreme Court justice, and his record gives us no doubt how he will rule in these cases. That is why I'm pleading with senators on the fence to vote no on Kavanaugh. With Kavanaugh on the...
All right, I think we didn't cheer loud enough for Denzel. Let's give it up for Denzel. Thank you. Next up, we have Jasmine Harris, the Director of Guns and Crime.
Good morning, everyone. Or shall I say, challenging morning, everyone. And thank you all for being out here. It feels like the rain is about to come down, and I hope that it washes away the frustrating perspectives that are preventing our country from progressing. And let me just begin by offering a couple of points, very poignant points about why we oppose the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. He has an extreme view of the scope of the Second Amendment, one that is outside of judicial mainstream, even for conservative jurists. His opinions would allow guns to be in more places around the country that would make more Americans feel unsafe and would tear down the opportunities we have to build trust with each other by encouraging us to be afraid of one another. His confirmation would shift the balance on the court and imperil the ability of states to enact strong gun laws that save lives. We already have friction between municipalities and states who are trying to figure out how to best keep people safe and at the same time how to protect people's so-called rights. But I'm a firm believer, as a Black woman standing before you who was raised in Chicago and Kentucky, that at one point in time, the Constitution did not allow my people, your people, our people, to all collectively be treated as 100% human beings. Do you remember that? Do you remember learning about that in history? Maybe that's one thing our history books got correct, though that is also in question. When I watched the nomination, the hearing process, it occurred to me a number of things, and I want to give a special appreciation to the organizers of a training that I went to around preventing gun violence in New York City this past weekend. It was sponsored by Life, Inc., New Yorkers Against Gun Violence, and the Community Justice Reform Coalition. And during this training, we talked about dominant toxic narratives. There are so many dominant toxic narratives throughout this entire judicial nomination process. There are too many to mention. We don't have enough time during a single filibuster to really break down all of the problematic themes that this entire process is supporting and upholding. But I can tell you one thing, it's not just our children who are watching, it's also our elders, those who are trapped in nursing homes, those who don't know where they will get their next meal tomorrow. We are all in this together. This is an intergenerational fight. But I do want to emphasize one dominant toxic narrative in particular that I have seen Kavanaugh and his colleagues on the Judiciary Committee really emphasize that it's particularly problematic, especially for someone who has received a law degree. Because you should understand that the minute that you encourage laws to apply to people differently, you buckle, you denounce, you tear down the very system that we're encouraging people to trust and believe in. If I can't believe in the system, how can I encourage a conversation with someone else to encourage them to believe in the system? Why believe in a system if it was broken? But more importantly, why believe in a system if it was never meant to uplift you and to help you thrive in the first place? Brett Kavanaugh, let me be very clear. People say he doesn't have a belief system. Oh, yes, he does. Oh, yes, he does. It's been very clear. His belief system, however, is not rooted in religion. It's not based in any aspect of Christianity. If you're looking at Jehovah's Witnesses, you're looking at Quakers, it's not based in any theology around Christianity. It's not based in Buddhism, Hinduism. It's not based in Islam. It's not based in a religious system. It is based on the principle that what is right for him is right for him, and what's wrong for you, good luck, figure it out. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about a young person's inability to make a correct, mature choice when he's in a hotel room, when he's in a fraternity party. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the perpetual encouragement to allow some people to do some things behind closed doors, and it's okay as long as you don't get caught with your pants literally and figuratively down when you step out of the room. That is not okay. What you do in the dark shall be brought to the light. What you do in the light that you think is hiding behind the shade of a tree will also be brought to the light. This is my personal perspective and encouragement as to why the Judiciary Committee members who just completed the cloture vote, but for all those members in the Senate, I wish you to hear this. Brett Kavanaugh is not impartial, could not be considered to be a fair justice. He has made it very clear to you that he has his mind already made up. When you have your mind already made up, you are not even bothering to listen to other perspectives. If you cannot listen, how can you hear someone? If you cannot hear someone, how can you consider their perspective as you make determinations about the future of our country? I will tell you this, America. Every single civilization that has committed itself so begrudgingly to stand still has perished. It is up to us. Do we want to go down with this, or do we want to rebuild and think about America as a place that respects everyone's sovereignty, especially the native peoples, because we forget that there were individuals who were here. This country wasn't discovered, it was merely landed on. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Jasmine. That was great. Okay. Next up, we have Rebecca Coakley, the director of the Disability Justice Initiative at CAP.
So I was at my OBGYN's office yesterday. Not exactly how I planned starting this speech, but there we go. So I was at my OBGYN's office yesterday, and I was in the stirrups with my feet up in the air, and I'm talking to the woman operating the sonogram machine. And she said to me, "What do you do for a living?" Because she was laughing at the jokes that I was going back and forth with my doctor and her nurse on. And I said, "You know, I fight Trump." And she starts crying, and she says, "Thank God, because I had to have an abortion when I was younger. And I'm terrified what it means to women younger than me that are fighting today to have those same rights that we had to fight 4 years ago. And I'm wondering, why the hell are we still there today?" So people are watching. People are listening. Even at the OB 2 weeks ago was chanting, "Stop Kavanaugh. Stop Kavanaugh." That's how often our kids are hearing it, and it's resonating. So what did I do? I really didn't want to come out here again. But I threw on my purple velvet uterus cowboy hat. I threw on an awesome The Future is Accessible shirt by Annie Laney, and I came back out here because as much as we might want to crawl back into bed, that is not an option. 4 out of 5 disabled women are survivors. But all survivors are women, are people with disabilities, because it fundamentally impacts every aspect of your life. It impacts how you work, how you learn, how you love. We remain in solidarity with you because we are you. Society has done a shitty job of making disabled people feel like we deserve to be victimized, that we are the lowest hanging fruit, that our voices are silenced because law enforcement sees us as unreliable witnesses to our own or others' experiences, that our bodies, our minds are so unlovable, so undesirable that no one would ever assault us, and if they did, it doesn't even matter. Dr. Ford is one of ours, one of the disability community. We see you and we fight for you. We climbed up the steps of this very Capitol to get the Americans with Disabilities Act passed. We climbed up the steps of that Supreme Court to have actual access to the judiciary. We shut down Congress last year and repeatedly ever since to protect the ACA, because our very existence is at the literal crosshairs of this administration. To the members of the Senate, that clock that you hear in that great building over there, that's not the procedural clock. That's the countdown to your retirement. Start packing and we're here to help.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, next up we have another Rebecca, Rebecca Vallis, Managing Director of the Poverty to Prosperity Program. Let's give it up for Rebecca.
Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Good morning. It's actually a pretty shitty morning, isn't it? That's why we're here. Let's be honest about that. I keep seeing people in the hall and in life and they say, "How are you?" And I look at them and I say, "I am shitty. How are you?" Well, my name is Rebecca Vallis. I'm the Vice President for the Poverty Program at CAP, and I'd like to begin, as so many of us this morning have, by saying loudly and clearly, I believe you, Dr. Ford. And I still believe you, Anita Hill. Statistics may vary, but some 1 in 4 women have experienced sexual assault, a number widely believed to be a significant underestimate because approximately 2 in 3 sexual assaults are never reported to the police. I am one of those women. My own experience with sexual assault took place when I was 14, almost the same age as Dr. Ford. I was a student at an educational summer program. We called it Nerd Camp. He was 17 and he was the popular boy. And I remember how special I felt when he chose me until he climbed on top of me and refused to listen when I told him no. When a counselor found me and urged me to tell camp administrators what had happened, I was terrified. But I listened to her when she said I needed to come forward, if not for my own sake, then for that of other girls who he might put in the same awful position. So I did. But instead of concern or belief, I was met with frustration and annoyance. I was told I was being dramatic. And besides, camp was going to be over soon, they told me. They didn't even see fit to send him home. So I left it there, and I felt like I was to blame. This is a story I've never shared publicly until now, in the wake of President Trump and Senate Republicans' disbelief and outright mocking of Dr. Ford. And I am just one of countless women finally sharing my own sexual assault story. And one of the many who never came forward before because we knew we would be met with disbelief or worse. Donald Trump, if you want to know why we didn't report, it's people like you. And the disdain and the disrespect and the outright abuse you and your Republican colleagues have been raining down on survivors. You are why we didn't report. In the words of Rebecca Traister, the message to women, especially those whose voices might disturb the peace, has always been that things will go better for us if we keep our mouths shut. Think about that, because that is what so many of us here today and us around this country have been doing, keeping our mouths shut. And now we're being told that our voices, our experiences, our bodies, our lives don't matter. That is what we are being told, that we don't matter. When Anita Hill was treated like trash 27 years ago by some of the same old white men dinosaurs Maggie Thompson rightly labeled such, it spurred an uprising from women, driving us to run for office in droves. Well, I've got news for you, GOP. The year of the woman that Anita Hill's mistreatment brought about is gonna look like a drop in the fucking bucket compared to what your fuck you to women is about to unleash. Those old white dinosaurs over there, they need to hear our voices. This right here, this moment, this is what go time looks like. We will not stand for this. We will not be silenced, and you better believe we are going to remember in November when we show up with pink slips for the so-called leaders telling us that sexual assault, or should we call it boys will just be boys behavior, shouldn't disqualify someone from a lifetime appointment to the highest court in the land. So let's make them hear us right now, right here. We are going to make them listen to us. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. We are going to tell them right now the one word they need to see in the mirror when they look in the mirror if they make this decision. And that word is, say it with me, shame, 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 shame. And we will not stop until they hear us. That much we know. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Rebecca. It is such an honor to work with all of the amazing people that I've gotten to introduce this morning. They are inspiring, and I couldn't imagine working at a better place besides the Center for American Progress and working with all the amazing progressive organizations that have been out here since 6:30 p.m. last night. I kid you not. My boss, Jake Falaschini, has slept here. He has a sleeping bag. We will be here. We will be here and be loud until that vote. Make sure senators can hear us. When women's rights are under attack, what do we do? When immigrants' rights are under attack, what do we do? When survivors are under attack, what do we do? When voting rights are under attack, what do we do? When our democracy is under attack, what do we do? Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our last speaker. He is another guest speaker. His name is Bob Wood. He is a Title IX coordinator at Gwynedd Mercy University. He approached me wanting to tell his story, and I am so pleased to introduce him and bring him up on stage.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to speak straight from the heart, off the cuff, nothing's written. First thing I'd like to say is what Ms. Vallis said, every word is absolutely true. People don't report. I know this. I'm a Title IX coordinator at Gwynedd Mercy University. I've been a Title IX coordinator for 9 years. I stepped into this job when something went wrong at a university. Somebody needed to investigate it, and by virtue of my career before education, I could do that, so it was handed to me. I will say this as far as people paying attention. I had 5 people, 1 young lady, 3 cameras, too much alcohol, and it was all taped. And the person I handed the report off to said, gee, if this wasn't taped, would we have to report? Would we have to investigate it? Yes. Does it matter to her? Yes. I've lived through this more than once. I hate to say that. More than once I've had that happen. What brought me here today are all the individuals I've worked with through the years who have sat in front of me and given me their stories, and I've done my utmost to try to help them through. The first step is listening, which I've heard a lot today, and a lot of people aren't listening, and that's a shame. What really spurred me beyond the individuals I've worked with, watching the news the other night, I watched Dr. Ford be mocked, laughed at, pretty much had her dignity stripped away in that thing. And this is a lady of courage. It takes a tremendous amount of courage for a survivor to step forward. And I've heard this question time and time again when she was going through her testimony. Why did she wait 36 years? Why did she wait 36 years? Well, I'll answer that question. A lot of people wait. I've had people wait 10 years, 5 years, whatever. I'm standing here telling you survivors wait an infinite amount of time. I was 8. I am now 57, and I have never, ever said a word about this publicly. 57 years, not 36. And if any senator or any administrator, president or vice president, wants to talk to me about it, I'll be glad to meet them and have a conversation. Because I remember exactly what happened. How, where, when. I can still smell the basement. So, ladies and gentlemen, when somebody says this occurred, listen and believe, because they don't want to step forward and make this public. Okay? Thank you for your time, and thank you all for coming here. And please, support survivors.
Thank you so much, Bob. And now I am going to turn it over to our ally and partnering organization, Move On. So I am happy and proud to introduce Ben Wickler. Thanks so much, you guys.
Let's hear it again for all the folks from the Center for American Progress, all the extraordinary speakers and their guest speakers. And let's take a second to say together to all the survivors that are stepping forward right now, we're with you. 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 This fight is now intensely personal for millions, maybe tens of millions, maybe more Americans across the country. It's important to hold that, and at the same time to remember that for both sides, and especially for the other side, this is a fight about power. This is a fight about the power to shape the country that all of us will live in. It's a fight to shape the country that our kids are going to grow up in. And it has stakes across all these different battles. And the reason why the right is now in the position where they might just barely have the power to force Judge Kavanaugh onto the court against all the odds is that they have been organizing for this moment for generations. The striking thing that's happening in this fight is that our side, which in court battle after court battle has been underpowered compared to theirs, our side is now fully awake. Our side is now fully energized. Our side will fight every fight like this from here on forward with all the ferocity, all the energy, all the commitment, all the understanding of the stakes that their side has used to get to this moment. So I want us all, no matter whether we win or lose tomorrow, no matter what we hear from Susan Collins at 3 today, I want us to feel and understand our power. our power that has emerged in this moment. Because there will never be another fight like this, where their side is coming in guns blazing, and they think that they can roll us. Never again. Never again. Never again. Never again. Never again. One chant I want to do before I introduce our first speaker today is a phone number that, for millions of Move On members across the country, is now saved in their favorites on their phones. Because Move On members and the progressive movement and people who've never identified as political have been mobilized over the last 2 years like never before in their lives. It's a number that's become almost totemic. It's the number for the Senate and House switchboard. Join me if you know the number. If you don't, learn it fast. 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. It's a chant. 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. That number used to be totally obscure, and now it's something that millions of Americans recognize. And our voices, raised over and over and over, are showing the Senate that we are paying attention. Our bodies inside the Hart Building, our voices out here outside the Capitol, and our voices and our phones on that line are showing that we won't stop no matter what they do. And those are going to turn into votes this fall. So with that, I'm excited to introduce our first speaker, Kaya Chatterjee. She's the chair of the Green Group. She is a fighter for a climate, for a planet that works for all of us, who I've been working with in the trenches for more than a decade. I'm so excited to welcome Kaya. I hope you'll join me. Let's give her a round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kaya Chatterjee. I am the Executive Director of the U.S. Climate Action Network, and I am here this morning on behalf of my son, on behalf of all of the survivors who have been so courageously telling their story, and on behalf of everyone on this planet. My son is a DC public school student about 3 blocks away from here, and I still remember when I was pregnant and I was told that you can't have fish when you're pregnant because of all the mercury in the water. Well, one of the rulings that Judge Kavanaugh has made is that mercury is okay. So these attacks that we are seeing right now are not only on women, but they are also on Mother Earth. They are on everything that we hold dear. They're on everything that we want for our children and everything that we want for our country and everything that we want for this world. So we together, as a broad movement of women, of men, are going to come together and defeat this. I believe that we will win because the stakes are so incredibly high. Every decision that will be made by the Supreme Court will affect all of us, will affect women, and will affect Mother Earth. And I can tell you that this is a person, Judge Kavanaugh, who treats women just the same way he treats Mother Earth. He treats women as though they are usable. He treats women as though they are disposable. He treats women as though they can take anything he throws at them. And that is the same way he treats our planet and the same way he treats Mother Earth, and we cannot let it stand. So I want to thank all of you who are out here today. We will win this together. I believe that we will, and I'm gonna close us out of my small part of this by having us say that together so that we know no matter what happens tomorrow, in the end, we will win. So repeat after me. I believe. I believe that. I believe that we. I believe that we will win. 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 And you know what? I believe survivors too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kaya. Our next speaker hails from a state that some of you may be thinking about a lot right now. Diane Russell has been organizing Mainers in Maine, here, coming from Maine to here, calling back to Maine, telling people what's happening here. The voices of Mainers are echoing through this building and through this entire country. And so I'm so pleased that she's joining us to bring her voice here at this moment. Diane Russell.
Are you fired up? We've been here before in this exact spot a little over a year ago when they told us that we were going to lose the Affordable Care Act. And magic happened in the middle of the night because one senator had a moment where he could not look himself in the eye and vote the wrong way. It is not looking good right now, and it feels like that could happen again, but we're not sure. I want you to know, without equivocation, no matter what anyone tells you, Maine people are organized against Kavanaugh across the board. We believe survivors, many of us are survivors, and our voices are getting here. The question is whether or not those voices are going to be heard. But I want to share with you two messages that I got this morning. I am in a hospital rehab right now, Diane. I'd like to call Susan Collins. Could you please send me some phone numbers? Please? Someone was messaging me from the hospital rehab because she wanted to make a difference. And I just got another message. I have called all 7 offices, and I can't get through because the phone lines are ringing off the hook. We are calling on Senator Collins to be a hero. I don't want to know what happens if she votes yes to confirm him. Not just because I don't want to know what happens in that Supreme Court right there. I don't want to have to stand in the way of the outrage and the fury that is going to be unleashed in my state. We have a man who thinks that it is perfectly acceptable to tear our country apart just so that he can be on the Supreme Court. That is a depth of entitlement that I have never seen in my life, and I am horrified by it, and I would hope Senator Collins would be horrified by it, just the way so many women were horrified when we saw Judge Kavanaugh with that facial expression of anger. That was not just anger, that was the view of a man who was so enraged that the woman had the audacity to stand up to him. That was the look of a man that was about to slap her back down. But women are standing up, men are standing with us, survivors are telling the stories, and I just want you to know that there is no question, none, that Mainers are on the side of here, the right side of history. Mainers are on the side of justice, and Mainers are on the side of survivors. We need you to stand with us.
You might remember that first moment in the hearing, the first hearing, when Brett Kavanaugh came in, and 3 women got up, and one of them was holding a t-shirt with a picture of her little girl and talking about the stakes for her daughter if Brett Kavanaugh gets on the Supreme Court. That woman is someone who I've fought alongside right out here through the healthcare fight on so many fights over the last year, and she is our next speaker, Rebecca Wood.
Wow, you're tall. Hi. They have a step stool for me. Okay, so he told you, my name is Rebecca Wood. I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia. But many of you know me as Charlie's mom. For those of you who don't know Charlie, She is a bright and joyful 6-year-old child who runs around here, loves the color pink, princesses, the band Dispatch, and Nancy Pelosi. Due to preeclampsia, Charlie was delivered 10 hours into her 26th week of gestation. She weighed 1 pound, 12 ounces, and was the size of my hand. Since the beginning, she has had to fight. At first, we didn't know if she would survive, but she blew us away with her strength and determination. After 3 months, she came home from the NICU. Next, we didn't know if she was going to walk. After several pairs of orthotics and countless hours of physical therapy, she runs and jumps, even when she probably shouldn't. We didn't know if she would speak. After endless speech therapy sessions, her first word was, "Yay!" And hearing her say, "Mommy, I love you," never grows old. Charlie has fought for every little thing in her life, and now it's my turn to fight. Charlie's birth is a pre-existing condition. Among many things, I fear the confirmation of Kavanaugh is a confirmation to overturn the ACA. Without the pre-existing condition protections of the ACA, Charlie will become uninsurable. What kind of future, what kind of chance does someone without health coverage have? Charlie did not survive to live with the consequences of a Kavanaugh confirmation. I must fight. We must fight. Fight for Charlie. Fight for millions of others with pre-existing conditions. Fight for survivors. Fight for democracy. They call me an activist. They call me a radical. They call me a leftist. But what choice do I have? All I am is a mom. I'm a mom where the only option left is to fight like hell for my baby. Whatever your issue, now is the time to give this fight everything you have. Call your senators, show up at their offices, come to Capitol Hill. Make your voice heard before it's too late. I believe we will win. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And thank you to Charlie. This fight, this movement is challenging. It is crushing. It is also so inspiring how people are stepping up and into this fight. And I'm so proud to introduce our next speaker, Kristen Pradko, who's here with her daughter. She's from Springfield, Virginia. She's a Move On, Resist, and Win leader. I just met her in person for the first time. Thank you so much for being here, Kristen.
Hello, good morning. Before I say anything else, can we just clear one thing up? How many of you have gotten your Soros checks to be here today? Nobody? Okay, it seems like that's a pretty weak argument because nobody's getting these checks, yet we still keep showing up for this stuff. So let's put that one to bed right now, right? Okay, good. This is democracy in action. This is not a billionaire at work. All right. I am a mom, I am an educator, I am a Virginian, I am a daughter, I am a wife, and it is for those reasons that as a Resist and Win leader, I spend my weekends knocking on doors and making phone calls to get out the vote for a blue wave in November. Yes. And you know what? I take my kids with me. And they love doing it. I explain to them, gosh, we are so lucky to live in a democracy where we get to vote and make our voices heard, where we get to go to rallies and make our voices heard. We are so lucky that we have these opportunities. So many other people in the world don't. And that's why I show them civic duty and democracy in action every weekend and every opportunity. We go out there and knock doors because my 8-year-old who has asthma should have the healthcare coverage he needs so he can breathe. And he shouldn't have to stay home from school because polluters have destroyed the air and he can't breathe it when it's hot outside. I knock on doors for my 5-year-old who in his second week of kindergarten had a lockdown drill because we can't keep guns out of the hands of people who would go into a school and shoot down young children or teenagers. I knock on doors for my daughter who, when she gets older, deserves to have body autonomy. Last time I checked, Donald Trump doesn't own my daughter's body. or mine, or yours, or Dr. Christine Blasey Ford's. And that's why I knock on doors. I hope you will join me. Please visit moveon.org/resistandwin. We're going to take back the House. I think we're going to take back the Senate. We're going to get rid of Donald Trump in 2020, and I hope you will help me. Thank you.
We've been hearing a lot over the last week about high school and about how the culture of high school affects what people do. And that's why I'm excited to introduce our next speakers who come from a high school that taught people strength, that clearly prepared people to fight. I'm talking about Holton Arms, and I'm welcoming our next speakers who are organizing alumni to be part of this battle and to not be silent. Alexis Goldstein and Sarah Burgess, please welcome to the stage.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Sarah Burgess, and this is Alexis Goldstein. And when I first read Dr. Christine Blasey Ford's story, its details about social networks which span across DC area schools, its details about small social gatherings at suburban homes, about Beach Week, its details were details of my childhood. And immediately I thought, wow, this is something that could have happened to me, that could have happened to one of my friends. And I could only imagine her feelings at having this person nominated to the highest court in the land. So very quickly, I worked with a group of classmates to draft and circulate a letter to say that we believed her, we supported her, her story, her experience needed to be taken seriously. There needed to be an independent, thorough, in-depth investigation. And most of all, we expressed our deep gratitude to her for coming forward in service to our country. And we knew that Holton was a tight-knit community, and we knew that there would be a lot of people willing to step up and support her. But I was so moved when over 1,200 fellow alum stepped up to support Dr. Christine Blasey Ford by signing this open letter. 1,200 alum, that's a huge number. There are only 70 or 80 girls per class at Holton Arms, so that's huge. I hope she knows that her community is behind her. And since this letter got started, we've been asked several times, why did so many people sign this letter? Is sexual assault more pervasive at DC area private schools? Why is there so much support? I don't think it is. I think we've seen in this past year how pervasive sexual assault is in our culture, in our society, how it permeates across every state, across women, in all contexts, and that we really need to come together in order to end it. And in the past few days, I've been thinking more and more about today's young women at Holton, about today's young women in American high schools. And more than ever, I really want them to know that their community supports them. I really want them to know that their community, that their society takes sexual assault seriously, that we are working to stop it, and that if they come forward with their story, they will be supported and they will be heard. I want them to know that. I want our senators to send that message that they are taking sexual assault seriously. And right now, this investigation has been rushed and it's being pushed through. They are showing that they do not take this seriously. And it breaks my heart. But also, I am full of hope. I am full of hope because I've seen young people in these past 2 weeks, in these past few weeks, I've seen us come together. I've seen us knock on senators' doors, and we will not stop. We will not stop until we have a country where women are free from sexual violence. Thank you.
So my name's Alexis Goldstein. I'm Holton Arms class of 1999. We had a little chant called "Who's Divine 99." But when I first got involved with Sarah and the group of folks that wrote this letter did it so fast, and they did it because the Holton Arms community wanted to tell Dr. Blasey Ford that we had her back and that we believed her and that we were going to stand with her no matter what. And I cannot tell you how galvanizing this has been for the Holton Arms community, except that I know that all of you know how galvanizing it has been because it's probably impacted every single one of you and you probably feel the same way. So this is a very tight-knit community, like Sarah said. It's a very small community, 1,200 alumni. There have only been 8,000 women who have ever attended Holton Arms going back to 1901, okay? So this is a huge chunk of our population. We also have a number of notable alumni who went there. Julia Louis-Dreyfus went to Holton Arms. She signed the letter. Thank you, Julia. Christine Lagarde went to Holton. We would love to have her. She's still invited to sign. Unfortunately, Senator Shelley Moore Capito is also somebody who attended Holton Arms. She went in the class of 1971. We visited her office 3 different times, once with a whole slew of cameras chasing us in, and we tried to say, can you please stop chasing us with the cameras? And we said, will you please sign this letter? And will you please stand with your fellow alumna? Because we have an honor code at Holton Arms. We take tests and the teacher walks out of the room. We don't lock the locks at our lockers. And people take that honor code very seriously, which is why you saw so many alumni say, we believe Dr. Ford. We believe Dr. Blasey Ford. And so it's incredibly disappointing to me as a Holton alum that Senator Shelley Moore Capito is basically saying that she does not believe her fellow alumna, Dr. Blasey Ford. But the main thing that I want you all to know is this has been a transformative experience for me. And right here, there's some Holton folks here. There's some over there. Like, we've been here all week. Our colors are blue and white, navy and white. If you ever see navy or white, you're probably looking at one of us. And I was really lucky we were able to present this letter not just to Senator Capito's office, but also to Senator Hirono and Senator Gillibrand 2 weeks ago, and they formally submitted it to the Senate Judiciary Committee. And at that press conference, I don't have it with me now, but I held onto a shirt that I had for 23 years that I had when I was the age that Dr. Blasey Ford was at the time of her assault. When I was 14, I was on the field hockey team at the Holton Arms School, and we made a shirt all together, and it was based on a chant that we used to chant at Holton Arms, and that chant goes, don't mess. Don't mess with the best because the best don't mess, and it goes on from there. But I held on to that shirt for 23 years because the back of it said, don't mess. And our community made a bunch of shirts that say don't mess on the front and Holton Arms on the back. But I think I speak for all of us when I say this again. We are all here today because we want to say don't mess with Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. And we want to say don't mess with the women of the Holton Arms School too, because we're a powerful community. But most importantly, I think we are all here to say don't mess with survivors. I don't know about you, but I cannot think of a population more powerful, more strong, more dedicated, more unwilling to give up than survivors and people who know survivors and care for survivors. We're all in this together. Sexual assault isn't just something that happens at Holton Arms. It's not something that happens at Georgetown Prep. It's not something that happens at prep schools. It's something that happens everywhere. And this isn't 1991, and this isn't even 2016. This is 2018. This is going to be different this time, no matter how this turns out, because we're all here. I've been transformed. Hopefully all of you have been transformed. The heroism of Dr. Blasey Ford is something I will never forget. I will never forget watching the hearing with my fellow Holton alumna, screaming at the television. Holton alumni, sorry, Karen is the grammar police over there. Alumni. And hopefully all of you have been transformed by this. And we're all stronger, and I just hope you'll say with me one more time, do not mess with us. Thank you.
Let's give another round of applause to all the Holton Arms alumni who've been involved in this fight and to those leading this effort. Alumni, thank you. Alumni, thank you. I never took Latin. So there's some breaking news that's been coming out right now. One piece of bad news, one piece of good news, and one piece of we still don't know news. So I hope you'll join me in responding. When the healthcare vote was happening in July 2017, we found out that senators can hear our chants. They can hear inside that building, they can hear inside that building if we're loud enough. So the first piece of news is that Jeff Flake has announced that not only his cloture vote, but his final vote is going to be yes. Boo! Can we say, Flake, think again? Flake, think again! Flake, think again! Flake, think again! Flake, think again! Flake, think again. Flake, think again. Flake, think again. Could I ask everyone to point your mouths towards that building right there, in case that's where he is? Let's do that 3 more times. Flake, think again. Flake, think again. Flake, think again. And then, just in case he's in the Capitol, because I'm not entirely sure, let's go to the Capitol. And 3 more times. Flake, think again. Flake, think again. Flake, think again. All right. The good news is that Lisa Murkowski has just announced that alongside her cloture vote on the final confirmation vote, she will vote no. Stand strong, Lisa. Stand strong, Lisa. Stand strong, Lisa. Stand strong, Lisa. And how about thank you, Lisa? Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. And that leaves this question of Manchin and Collins. They are both undecided. They are both publicly undecided. Manchin has said that he will not know his vote until he walks through the door to the chamber. What more do you need to know? 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 It is hard to imagine. Oh, I should note, Flake said that unless something, let me find the exact wording here. He said, I plan to vote yes unless something big changes. And then he said, I'm glad we had a bit of process. Subpoena Mark Judge. Subpoena Mark Judge. Subpoena Mark Judge. Subpoena Mark Judge. All right. It is hard to imagine the big thing that has to change, but let's see if we can make it happen with our energy and with our passion over the next 30 hours. We are something big. We are something big. We are something big. We are something big. And let's hope that Collins and Manchin get word. I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, another speaker who's been here in the healthcare fight and who is here now, Matt Cortland. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you for being here, because y'all are something big. It's incredible to see so many people out here. You know, this morning, I had a chance to meet with some Senate Democrats on their live stream, and before I tell you what I said there, I just want to take a moment, because over the last few weeks, we've heard from elected Republican leaders that somehow sexual assault is not disqualifying in a judge. And as a lawyer, but more importantly, as a human being, that's just wrong. Sexual assault is unequivocally disqualifying for any judicial post, from the People's Court to the Supreme Court. I am alive because of Medicaid. Without Medicaid, I would be dead. Without Medicaid, I will die. Slowly, painfully, but dead as the end result. And Brett Kavanaugh has demonstrated that he is not the kind of judge who will rule on the facts and who will rule on the law. He's a man who has made threats about sowing the wind and reaping the whirlwind. I have to tell you, as a lawyer, and as a lawyer who's covered by Medicaid, that scares me, because I know when we go to court to stop Trump from imposing bureaucratic requirements on Medicaid that are designed to take healthcare away from people like me, when we reach the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh has already told us how he's going to rule. It doesn't matter how good our legal arguments are. It doesn't matter how much the facts are on our side. He's going to view that as an opportunity for political retribution. And I'm just going to be the casualty, I guess. And so, to Senator Manchin, I just have to say, as a Democrat, I am begging you, literally begging you. This man does not have the temperament to sit on the Supreme Court of the United States. He doesn't even have the temperament to sit in the visitors gallery. We are something big. We are something big. I've never led a chant before, so help me out. How does this work? We are something big. We are something big.
We are something big. Our next speaker is a dear friend of mine and a close colleague. He works with me at MoveOn.org, and he has been in this fight for years. I'm so pleased to welcome our next speaker, Reggie Hubbard, a wise man, a mentor, and a champion in this battle. Reggie Hubbard, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, everyone. That was pathetic. Good morning, everyone. One more time. Good morning, everyone. That's much better. The first one was a 1 out of 10. The second one was a 5 out of 10. The third one was a 7. I'll give you that. We can get better. By the end, I want a 10 out of 10, all right? By the end, I want a 10 out of 10, all right? Thank you. I'm Reggie Hubbard, and I'm part of the DC Move On team, and I'm proud to be here in support of this moment and in support of this movement. I'm proud to stand here in support of democracy. I'm proud to stand here in support of survivors. And one quick word on that, to all survivors here and watching and listening, thank you for your courage. Again, thank you for your courage. Can we have a round of applause for that courage? Senator Jeff Flake may not have courage or conscience, but you do. And it doesn't matter in full candor whether these guys or gals believe you or don't. We believe you, we see you, we support you, and we hear you. So thank you again for speaking your truth. And again, regardless of the outcome, let's just be honest. The system is rigged, ladies and gentlemen. They've got the White House, they've got the Senate, and they've got the Congress. However, we've come pretty far, right? With the odds stacked against us, we've come pretty far. And I used to be a civics teacher back in the day, and for my, yay teachers, woo! So for my civic lessons, I remember Congress is supposedly a co-equal branch of government, not a feckless handmaiden for the iniquitous administration, right? So when the system is rigged against our interests, we have to fight back. So I want all of us to have pride in the energy that we've expended up to this point. We made Mitch McConnell blink, and I didn't know a turtle could blink. But I'm here to tell you, they may have the power now, but we will have the power in November. I'm a proud progressive. I'm a proud fighter for freedom, love, peace, and justice for all. As Ben said, I've paid my dues in this fight. I won't tell you for how long, but it's been a minute. Most recently, I served as one of the executive producers for Bernie Sanders in his 2016 presidential campaign. So my progressive bona fides are without question. But I want to share something with you all, like as proud of a progressive as I am. This is not about right versus left. Y'all know where I'm going with this. This is about right versus wrong. This is not about right versus left. This is about right versus wrong. And Ben didn't do this. Thank you, Ben, for not taking it. So today is my birthday. And thank you. I'm about as Libra as it gets. I'm passionate about fairness and justice. And you know, one of the misconceptions about a Libra is that we're peace-loving. We're peace-loving, but if you throw us out of balance, we'll raise hell to get that balance back in order. And when we're out of balance, we fight like hell to restore that balance in our lives. And let me tell y'all something. The Supreme Court over here is not about enacting a partisan agenda that limits and restricts the rights and freedoms of people. It's about enshrining liberty and justice for all. And when the system oppresses us, we fight back to express that freedom. One other thing is I'm also a yoga teacher, certified yoga teacher. So in the middle of being in the heart of the resistance, I did my yoga teacher training. Some people said I was crazy like a fox. The reason that I can be here now at peace is because I put in hours and hours of meditation for this bullshit. So my dharma as a yoga teacher is to alleviate suffering in this world and shine light into darkness. And it may seem dark for you right now, but do you all know what the antidote to darkness is? It is unbridled, brilliant light. It is time to rise and shine. Repeat with that. It is time to rise and shine. It is time to rise and shine. That's a 3. It is time to rise and shine. That's a 4. It is time to rise and shine. That's still a 7. Y'all got some work to do. One of my favorite historical figures is Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has." So as we stand together now in solidarity, we hope the Senate will do the right thing. However, if they don't, we got a message for them. And I want y'all to repeat this with me at a 10, not that bullshit 3 that you just had. We will remember, see you in November. 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 Thank you.
We will remember. See you in November. Let's give another round of applause to Reggie Hubbard. And now, I'd like to welcome Jessica Brown and Brick by Brick.
Good morning. Hello and welcome. We are Brick by Brick, that's BXB. We are building a human wall against Trump's hate, sexism, and misogyny. We stand as people from all across the globe with this Brooklyn-based design company started by Sarah Sandman, and I am your co-leader in today's demonstration, Jess Brown. We are here fighting, again, misogyny, against sexism, against racism, against sexual assault, against everything hateful that our president stands for right now. We welcome and invite you to take 2 minutes of silent protest with us in support of those victims and anyone who has experienced social injustice. The words that you see on our bodies are all words that our president has said about women: dog, bimbo, slob, slut. These are the words that are posted on our body. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Brick by Brick. Thanks to everyone for bringing that moment. It takes a lot of courage to do what a lot of folks are doing right now. I'm pleased to welcome our next speaker. He might have been, he might have been the first senator to come out against Brett Kavanaugh. And he's been fighting every step of the way. Our next speaker is someone who looks creatively for new ways to fight back, who tries to find power where there's not supposed to be any, and he has been an intimate part of this movement to fight against Brett Kavanaugh and for a better country and world all the way through. I'm so pleased to introduce Jeff Merkley, Senator from the great state of Oregon.
Oh, folks, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in this fight. I have a pretty heavy heart at this moment. Based on what I heard from a couple individuals speaking on the floor of the Senate not long ago, right before the vote. I listened to leadership on the Republican side stand up and say things that simply were not true. These were Chuck Grassley, the chair of the committee, and Mitch McConnell, the majority leader. They said there's no contemporaneous evidence to support the women who came forward. That is not true. I am so disturbed that the president put out a scoping direction that prevented the FBI from speaking to a single one of the 28 witnesses that Debbie Ramirez and Dr. Ford asked to be interviewed. Not one. Not the fault of the FBI. It's the President of the United States suppressing information from those who had the ability to share. And let me tell you about one of those individuals, Kenneth Appold. Kenneth was in the same suite that freshman year with Kavanaugh. He heard the story about what happened to Debbie Ramirez. He heard it just shortly after it happened. He was pretty deeply disturbed about it, so deeply disturbed that in his first year of graduate school, he shared that story with his roommate. So there you have a person able to confirm and corroborate what happened, who shared it many years ago, long before Kavanaugh was ever to be considered. And the FBI didn't talk to them because the President of the United States would not let them. Furthermore, the chair of the committee didn't call a single one of those 28 people before the Judiciary Committee of the United States of America. What a complete betrayal of justice. I see over here a painting with a hand over the mouth of Lady Liberty holding the Justice of Scales. How about fairness and transparency and justice for the brave women who come forward, not silencing with a hand over their mouth? Think of the different standards that should be in existence for a Supreme Court justice. One, that they tell the truth. And we heard falsehood after falsehood after falsehood from Brett Kavanaugh. Let's not let an individual who cannot tell the truth ever sit among the 9 justices of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. We heard about his record of treatment of women, not just from the brave women who came forward, but also from the comments when he tried to disgrace and participated in the shaming of a high school acquaintance in his yearbook. We heard about the fact he chose to join a fraternity that specialized in abusing women, that he joined a secret society that was known for that reputation. This is not a criminal court examination. This is a job interview. And in this job interview, an individual with this record of abusing women, treating women in this capacity, should never get hired. The chair of the committee stood up before the Senate today and said that the friends of Kavanaugh that were present at the event that Dr. Ford described had refuted her position. That's something Kavanaugh said too. But not one of them refuted it. They said, we don't remember. We don't know. That is not refuting. Wouldn't it be nice if U.S. senators in charge would stand up and speak the truth, not the falsehood? Right now, there are still several senators wrestling with whether their vote to end debate will be the same vote that they will cast when they decide whether or not Kavanaugh should serve in that beautiful Supreme Court building as one of 9 justices. So let's hold them in our hearts. Let's thank Lisa Murkowski for her vote this morning. And I'm thankful that Jeff Flake is wrestling with this final decision. I'm thankful that Susan Collins is going to speak at 3 p.m. today with her final decision. I hope, and I pray that the individuals who are still wrestling with this have the courage to wrestle with this, unlike their colleagues, have the courage to also conclude that this individual, no matter the judicial philosophy, which I disagree with in profound ways, because it's a judicial philosophy of government by and for the powerful rather than government by and for the people. And I want government by and for the people. But my colleagues who disagree with me on that, let us all agree that this individual, this Brett Kavanaugh, this person who didn't speak the truth to the committee, this person who disgraced and attacked women, this person who didn't dispute or argue with the fact that tons of documents relevant to his service were never delivered to the U.S. Senate for consideration. Let's say together universally that this person should never serve in the Supreme Court under the banner of justice under the law. This would not be justice. Thank you all very much. Keep up the faith.
Let's give another round of applause to Senator Merkley and to all the senators that are fighting with everything they've got to stop this guy from getting to the Supreme Court. I have one more speaker to present, then I'm going to hand it over to the National Women's Law Center that has done profoundly inspiring work all the way through this battle. But I'm so pleased to welcome Courtney Height of the Sierra Club. Let's give her a huge round of applause.
This is a giant podium. Hi, everybody. I'm Courtney Height, and I am the Democracy Program with the Sierra Club. And we started this fight the day that Kennedy retired. And we knew that this was going to be a fight for our lives. But we didn't quite understand what that was going to look like until the last few months. We knew when Kavanaugh was nominated, he had an extremely anti-environmental record. He thought pre-existing conditions were unconstitutional to be covered by the Affordable Care Act, and he didn't think women should have access to abortion and health care. So we knew from the beginning on his record he was bad. But then over the last couple months, those of us in the fight from the beginning, this has changed dramatically. It's become much more personal on a level that I know I wasn't prepared for, as we watch Republican men attacking women across this country in order to put someone on the Supreme Court that we know is bad. And then what we've learned more recently, he's a liar. He's lied under oath multiple times. That should be disqualifying. He has multiple accounts of sexual assault against him. That should be disqualifying. His temperament on Thursday, last hearing, when he yelled and he was hyper-partisan attacks, attacking Democrats, attacking women, that is disqualifying. Yet they're continuing to try to put him on the bench. We think we can still stop him, though. I think it was a little Flake. I still think we can maybe get Flake. And there's still a few more out there. So please go out there. If you haven't called your senator, call your senator. Go to the halls, knock on those doors, follow them around. And we can stop this guy. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's end this block with one more chant and then welcome. You know what? Let's end this block by welcoming our next speakers with a message that we want the senators to hear. Join me in saying, thank you to the fighters. 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 Thank you to everyone who is part of this fight. The senators, the activists, the citizens, the speakers, the people stepping up, the survivors. Thanks to everyone, and thanks to the fighters of the National Women's Law Center. I'm so pleased to welcome your next MC, Anna Chu, a tremendous fighter, a National Women's Law Center leader, and a hero of mine. Thank you to Anna Chu.
Thank you, man.
When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. I don't hear you. I don't think you believe it. When we fight, we win. All right. So I'm Anna Chu from National Women's Law Center. Man, it has been a long 3.5 months. And it's been a longer 3 weeks. But we're here because women everywhere, we're watching, we're rising, and we're fighting. I'm so happy to have so many friends and partners at the National Network to End Domestic Violence, Feminist Majority Foundation, National Partnership for Women and Families, Futures Without Violence, YWCA, so many. We're also thrilled to be joined by survivors who've flown in from Alaska, from Maine, from Colorado, from Arizona, from Iowa. They're throwing down with us today, and you'll be able to hear a lot of them come and tell and share their stories. But I'm going to kick it off real quick to our first wonderful speaker, Latifah Lyles, VP for National Network to End Domestic Violence. Latifah.
Thank you, Anna. As Anna said, today we're going to hear from survivors. They tell their stories, we lift them up, and we tell our own stories about the countless women we hear, we help, and we support. Their stories are what matter today and tomorrow. Dr. Ford's story matters. We matter. Survivors matter. But that is not the message we hear today from the floor. It is not the message we hear from the leadership of this country. It is unfortunately not the message and the reality that most women live in today. Let us recall the responses to sexual assault victims receive before the passage of state and federal laws that criminalize sexual assault.
And we are here outside of the Capitol Police right now. These are some of the 602 activists protesters who got arrested yesterday. We're standing in line to pay the fine, and we're just processing what we know, all the news. Just like you, we're processing all the news. So right now we're going to be oh God, at this point we're praying. Okay, so this is where we know that we're at. We've got Senator Murkowski from Alaska is a no, and so we are grateful to her. We are so grateful to her. What we don't know is Joe Manchin from West Virginia, who voted yes on cloture. He's a Democrat. Is he going to vote no on Kavanaugh? We don't know. We also know that Senator Susan Collins is a yes on cloture, but we don't know if she's a no on Kavanaugh. And so she's going to tell us at 3 p.m. So we're still alive, another day, and we're going to still have hope. So, any thoughts on what we're doing today?
We're not collapsing.
Yeah.
We're not done yet.
We're not done yet, right? We still believe that we can win.
I think what I've loved about what's happening today too is that it's been really relational. Like people are telling their stories, they're going to offices, they're trying to have heart-to-hearts with the senators. It's more like getting gritty and telling the truth and appealing to people's hearts than the screaming and shouting, although we did shut down Flake's office.
Yeah, officially. Yeah.
Everyone that's standing up in this fight is making a difference. We're either going to win here in Washington or we're going to win in the voting booth in November. So stepping up now, throwing your body at the process, throwing your heart at the process, making sure that your voice is heard is important. It's not over. It's not over in terms of the vote with Kavanaugh, and it's not over in terms of this country being a place where we have real democracy, where everyone's safe from sexual violence, and where the voices of regular Americans matter, not just the voices of billionaires.
That's right. And here we go. This is like all of the brave protesters. There's Bob Bland's mom. Hi. And thank you all so much for your work.
And just like Michael said, it's 31 days until the midterms, so we are going to vote like we've never voted before, civic engagement like we've never engaged before. So there is so much hope. So does anyone want to say hello
to the folks at act.tv? How excited are you about your protest yesterday? Was that amazing? Was it your first time?
It was my first time, yep.
Yeah, and where are you from?
Originally from Michigan, but live in Boston. So
yeah, and why were you protesting yesterday?
You know, I just think this is a really important moment in history, and I'm tired of people, there being sort of one vision of power, and that power being able to do whatever they want. So it was really important for me to show up and say, we believe women.
Yeah, that's right. What about you? Why did you protest yesterday?
I just don't think Kavanaugh is fit or qualified to be on the highest court of the land. I think there is no question about it. He's proven that he lies and that he, doesn't support women or women's rights. And I'm old enough to remember what things were like, some years ago. I don't want to go back there. No. And so it's very, very important to me that we prove to them and show them that we resist and we don't want it. We can't just sit at home in our living rooms and hope somebody else does something about it.
Tell Lisa Murkowski. So what we're doing is we're thanking Lisa Murkowski, because thank goodness we got her. We got some Alaskans here. So anyone want to say hello to the folks at act.tv?
Oh, hi.
Hi, please introduce yourself and say hello.
Oh, hi, I'm Bob Bland, co-president of the Women's March.
I'm Tammy Lee.
And you've been here tirelessly the whole time. How are you feeling?
Well, I am tired,
yep.
But I'm also inspired. So, we overcome our tiredness by the fight. So I'm happy to be here with Bob and everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah, and everybody who's in this line today put their bodies on the line yesterday, and that's why they're here, because we all got arrested yesterday in the Hart Atrium building. It was over 300 arrests.
602. 602.
It was some enormous amount of arrests for people. And what we do know is that at least 2,000 people have been arrested this month.
That's amazing.
And that is incredible. And a lot of people, what I loved about yesterday was people just felt the spirit move them to get arrested. And we're seeing this more and more, that people that might not even be organizing with us, may not have been trained, may just come in. And then also the office staffers risking their positions, risking unmasking themselves as real human beings. And by putting in the window, I just there's just so many people this month who have dehumanized us and dehumanized the process and each other, that just having these office staffers whose jobs are on the line put in the window, Kava, no. And we believe survivors, as if that should ever be controversial. Dr. Christine Blasey, that really meant a lot to me. So thank you, and there's still time. You can come out, and you can come here today. It's pretty easy. The Hart Senate Atrium, just show up. We are here. We will be here tomorrow. You can meet us at 9 a.m. back here at the Hart Atrium. And we are going to take this all the way, because this is always one at the end. It's everything that we've been building on, but we can't flag now. We can't stop now. Don't let anything distract you. Just get here and be a part of this.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right, everybody. We have to believe that we will win. We must believe. We must believe. You just paid your fine. You just paid your fine. Did you pay your fine?
I just paid it.
You're free?
$50 till the next
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Right.
Now, why were you inspired to protest yesterday?
Oh, girl, it's a sad story.
Okay.
I was abducted and assaulted and held for 3 days when I was 20, and I'm 66.
And you remember it all, don't you?
Every freaking detail. And it came back in a flood when I listened to Dr. Ford's testimony.
Oh, gosh.
I'm now married to a beautiful, wonderful husband, have a great son, beautiful daughter-in-law, thought my life was all okay now, and it all came back. And the shame was choking me. And it's just a flood, and I knew I had to come. I knew I had to be here.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's like so important to believe survivors right now, because that's been happening to all of us. We're remembering.
Right.
All of us are survivors.
You can imagine the whole country of us, feeling that just crumbling apart, right? Just from
that's
the
right.
core.
That's
And
right.
I've been in the resistance since Trump got elected, so I knew people that were here.
Yeah, that's right. You know what we're going to do in 31 days, though?
What?
We're going to vote.
Well, that's true. And I'm gonna do like this with my arms and my legs and cross over.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your story. Okay, so
you got some stories from survivors. That's what we've been doing. And, I got to be honest, I hate that we have to do this. Like, the women of America are literally, thousands of them, are coming down here and bearing their souls in these senators' offices. I'm a survivor. I've told my story, and I never thought that I would be doing it here in the United States Senate, but that is what we're doing because we know what's at stake. We know what's important, and we can't ever go back. So, oh gosh. Wow, so what we're getting right now is news from the GOP leaders that, this is an interesting one, that GOP leaders actually have no idea how the vote's gonna go. Wow. So, senators too, they need to do their stuff. So thank you all so much, and a big thank you to Women's March, Center for Popular Democracy, Housing Works, our team at act.tv who've been covering every second of all of this to make sure that you can see exactly what's going on, the incredible Vote Pro-Choice team that's allowed me to be here, and they've been here making sure that you have all the information that you need. And I'll tell you, you know what? We're going to make sure in 31 days we're going to vote pro-choice like we've never voted before. So I'm going to turn it back over to act.tv. I'm going to turn it back over to act.tv, and thank you all so much for all you do.
And I believe we all should. But even still, she will vote yes on Kavanaugh. I am reminded that believing survivors without taking action is utterly meaningless. Believing survivors does not mean anything to them if you do not stand with them. After the limited FBI investigation and that emotionally charged, unprofessional hearing that we all watched on TV, she does not think there is any reason to believe Kavanaugh should not be in the highest court in the land. Frankly, even if you believe in innocent until proven guilty, Americans have seen enough to know that Kavanaugh does not have the integrity nor the emotional stability to sit on the United States Supreme Court. I'm sure that this is not the crowd that needs to hear that, though. You are taking action, and you are going behind and believing survivors. I want to remind you that no matter what happens, your presence here is impactful, especially to me, a woman who fought sexual assault in high school and got death threats for doing so. I see you. And every Facebook post that I see supporting Kavanaugh, I see people in the comments and on their own social media continuing the fight and speaking up. Silence speaks volumes. Silence is a statement. Silence is the voice that stifles the cries of survivors around the world. And I want to send a quick reminder to pay special attention to the women of color who consistently get spoken over. Their voices are so often disregarded, and they have the highest rates of assault in this country. Let us not forget our black and brown sisters, our lesbian transgender sisters, our sisters who have disabilities, and our sisters who cannot share their stories out of fear for their safety and well-being. Carry their stories on your backs as you continue to fight for survivors. Let's continue to speak, to raise our voices if we are able, and to raise our fists if we are able, and to raise the standard for what it means to be a Supreme Court justice on the court that represents each and every American that exists. Thank you for being here today. I will not forget that today I was not standing alone, and despite our politicians' silence, I hear your message, and that is the one I will carry and continue to fight with for survivors back in Iowa. Thank you.
Hello all, my name is Elena Green. I'm a St. Louis native, but living and voting in Iowa City. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't wanna be here today. I would like to be doing, quite frankly, anything else. I would like to be taking a bubble bath. I would like to be hanging out with my roommates. I would really like to be doing homework. I'm missing a lot of homework. But I'm here today because my life has been shaped by sexual violence. The first time I was groped, I was 10 years old. I was at a Christmas family party. A 45-year-old man decided to grab my butt. I've been raped 3 times. I am 21 years old, and I have been raped 3 times by 3 different men. I have been catcalled more times than I can count. I have never reported because I knew I would not be believed. So last October, I was on a dating app, as the young kids do, and I was talking to someone, and as I talked to her, I realized that she was not a her, and that was a problem for me because I'm a lesbian. So I blocked him and just thought that was just him, and just thought that was just someone messing with me, and that would be the end of it. I started getting text messages to my personal cell phone number about an hour later. Those text messages had my address, which I never gave out. They had photos of me that I'm not sure how they got. And they were detailing the ways they wanted to rape and kill me. I reported to the police, and the police officer came, and he read all of the text messages, and he saw they had my address, and he saw they had pictures of me, and he told me that I was not in danger. He told me that there was no threat of harm, and that if anything else happened, to please give him a call. He handed me his business card and he left. That was the extent of assistance that I got the one time I dared report. So for the last few weeks, I've been seeing this hashtag, why I didn't report. And more than I've been seeing the hashtag, I've been seeing people fighting those brave survivors speaking out about why they didn't report, saying your reason wasn't good enough, you should have reported. Reporting does not always work. Dr. Ford has given me so much courage and inspiration by coming forward when she did, by knowing that he's probably going to get confirmed, knowing he's probably going to get confirmed, knowing that she was going to get death threats, knowing she was going to be forced to move from her home, and she reported anyway. And I really just want to take a moment of silence, because I don't think there are words, for every person who has ever felt like they couldn't report and wasn't able to get help, and for every person who did report and was met with shame. I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to be here, as much as I would love to be taking my bubble bath or doing my homework. And I'm so grateful to all of you for standing here, for listening to me, for listening to my fellow survivors. And I implore you, I beg you, to please continue to believe. You do not need to ask questions when someone says they were assaulted. You do not need any information. All you need to do is be there for that person, and that will matter so much.
My name is Allie McEwen, and I'm also from Iowa. And during my first semester at college, I was sexually assaulted in a dorm. And shortly after, my perpetrator said it was okay because he went to confession. Okay, so even though first semesters are supposed to be fun, mine was plagued by an investigation by the university. It did result in, I would say, pretty favorable outcomes, but it still was not perfect. Since this instance, it's been very difficult, but I've been able to reclaim my power through different things, and I wanted to come here today because I wanted another chance, another way to reclaim my power. Thank you. However, now through these Kavanaugh hearings, I'm constantly reminded how our culture explicitly hates women and doesn't believe survivors. This is further reinforced because my senator is Grassley, and he is in charge of the Judicial Committee. Yeah. So, Senator Grassley, since you work for me, I have a message for you, and I want to do this message here since you won't meet with us. So, if you vote yes tomorrow, which I'm assuming you will, but I'll try to be a little optimistic, you will show me and all other survivors that you don't care about us at all. You work for me, but instead you're working to appoint a sexual predator to the Supreme Court of the United States, and that's awful. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Emmeline Brown. I'm also a student at the University of Iowa. I flew here to share my story with you as well as my senators. Following a year of harassment by a peer in my school, I was raped at 12 or 13. Like Dr. Ford, I don't remember exactly what day it was, but I do remember the day that I reported. I was told things like, this could ruin his life. Why would you make something like that up? Why would you say something like that? I know him, he wouldn't do something like that. You must have given him the wrong signs. I remember it because I never saw any form of justice. Following a lack of response, my friends left me, deciding that the allegations must have been false, should no one have done anything about it, and I faced further bullying. My parents didn't believe me either, having not seen any actions from my school. I continued to feel unsafe in school until my high school graduation. I had classes with my perpetrator. I always felt on edge at school events. I hated supporting my siblings at their athletic events. I felt relieved when we went on family vacations away and always felt a sense of dread when we crossed back into the city limits. I assumed that my school had done everything and the right thing in protecting me. I didn't know my rights until I got to college 5 years later. It took me months to file my OCR complaint, and when I did, it was because I finally understood my rights for the first time. But there it was again, the rhetoric that this time that came in the shape of my OCR rejection letter, that I hadn't come forward fast enough. But it didn't feel like that way to me. My assault is something that I've thought about for nearly every day for the past 2,900 and many more days. But it was something that I could rarely talk about. It impacted whole segments of my life, where I decided to apply to college, dynamics with my family, if I attended school events, my decision to become an exchange student in high school, my decision not to run for student council or prom queen. It has impacted my health, my college attendance, and shaped what I want to do as a career path. Rape is not something that any 12-year-old or anyone should have to experience. It is not something that anyone should have to experience. But sexual violence became a daily aspect of my education. I experienced it in middle school. I dealt with the repercussions of it in high school. I dealt with it again in college. I am sick of it. I am so sick of it that I have decided to pursue a career and fight it as best as I can. I want to be a civil rights litigator. I want to defend the rights of students to pursue an education free of sexual violence like everyone should. But now seems impossible that the precedent that I will have to follow as an attorney will be set by someone who seems a lot like my perpetrator. The greatest fear that I have is that I will be silent. And I've been silent for 8 years, and I will not allow others to be silent. I vow to you that I, as an attorney, someday, hopefully, will fight, and I will do everything in my power, regardless of what happens today, to protect survivors. Thank you so much.
Let's not trip. All right, hello everybody. My name is Sabrina Joy Stevens. I'm with the National Women's Law Center. How's everybody doing today? I want to thank the brave survivors who just spoke to us. Everybody, come on. You guys do better than that. Come on, come on, come on. I want to thank Know Your 9 and End Rape on Campus for organizing every day as well as today to make sure that these survivors' voices can be heard. I also want to give a little bit of a, all right, whatever, a PSA for folks who are here. There's some ugliness happening in this general area with some people in red hats. We're here to make a statement about protecting our democracy from the predators who inhabit the White House and other places who are trying to get onto our Supreme Court. We have important things to say. Let's make sure the focus stays here on the important and positive things that we're trying to say and accomplish, and not engage with people who are trying to drag us down to their level, okay? They can slither on wherever they want. We don't need to deal with that. And speaking of why we don't need to engage in that ugliness, is because feminists are the majority, okay? Those of us who believe in equality among all people are the majority. Regardless of this crooked, rigged system that we will dismantle, regardless of how many ways they can try to sneak their way into 270 or pack our Congress with people who don't deserve to be in those seats, we will find ways to dismantle the very systems that have been built to oppress us. And we do not need to worry about this for much longer, okay? This is oppression's last gasp. They're gonna be ugly. It's gonna be hard for a while, but we will win. And so speaking of how feminists are the majority, I have the great honor to announce and to introduce the president of the Feminist Majority Foundation, Ms. Eleanor Smeal. Come on up.
Thank you so much. Yes, feminists are the majority, and there's no question we're still in this fight. We have a chance to win, and we're going to keep fighting every hour that we can. We want to thank the survivors that are here and who are everywhere in the nation, sending a message that we will not be silent anymore. In fact, many, many, many every day are coming forth. All of the hotlines are very, very swamped right now because basically, let's face it, women have put up with too much for too long. I can't believe that the majority leader of the Senate goes on the floor today and complains about being bullied in the halls, intimidated by young and old women, all ages, who are just saying, listen to us. Let us open your ears, listen. And yet they feel like there has been a conspiracy to hurt a man when in fact each of these women have so much to say. At the very same time, we are fighting to stop Kavanaugh. I want everybody to have all this in their heads. We are fighting to reauthorize the Violence Against Women bill. A bill that was put forth in 1994 after the Anita Hill hearings and the terrible result of having another justice on the court that is fighting women's rights for all these years. But that bill is totally underfunded. Every time it comes up, we have to beg and beg and beg. Women are not being paid adequately enough. Many are still volunteers as they staff rape crisis hotlines, as they staff domestic violence shelters, as they are there fighting sexual assault. Why? Why are we so underfunded? Why don't they understand that this cannot keep going on? In fact, we have to ask for what we deserve and get it. Because every time we don't, somebody, some woman, some victim of, and I know we're saying survivors, but at that moment of attack, a victim of violence. These are the same folks also that won't pass gun regulations. And they want to put on the court a person who says on guns that we can't regulate them unless they were regulated in the original Constitution, how many years ago? And that if they're commonly owned, then for sure we can't regulate them at all. As Senator Feinstein said this morning on the floor, the United States is 4% of the world population, and we possess 42% of the guns. And the reason I'm saying guns is because some of this violence perpetrated against women ends in murdering women, injuring women, and with guns it is so much worse. We're here because we're fighting for all of our lives. We should be working on other things. This should be a settled case. And whatever happens tomorrow, whatever happens, and I still have hope for victory, and we're never giving up, and we're never giving in. But this, whatever happens, we will not stop here. We're going to pass a stronger Violence Against Women Act. We are going to have more aid to survivors. We are going to end discrimination, and I don't care how many right-wing extremists they put on the court. We're going to pass the Equal Rights Amendment. Imagine a person says that they're originalists. How can they say they're originalists when the original Constitution left off a woman, had slavery? It needs correction, and we're going to fight for it to the end. So, every person here, spread the word. This is just the beginning. If they think they're being bullied now, just watch out. We're going to take their seats in November. And so, this November, we're not only going to remember, we're going to bonify. After this is over, just remember, do something on the elections, because we've had enough of this reactionary government. It's time to move forward into the 21st century as one, equal forever. Thank you. Keep fighting. You are making a difference.
Give it up for Eleanor. She was fantastic. I am proud to bring up a lovely woman I was able to meet today who has flown all the way here overnight to share her story with her Senator Give it up for Susie.
I guess I'm stepping up. So I have the misfortune of being from Colorado, which means I'm represented by Corey Gardner. So what I want to share is that I was sexually abused and raped by my maternal grandfather from the age of 10 to the age of 17. I never told anybody because I feared the reaction from my family more than I feared what he was doing to me. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was raped by an acquaintance. I also never told anybody about that. I think that what we do is we push it back. We don't want to believe it. We don't want to live that life every day. And so I let it go. It took me 30 years to find my voice and stand up and tell people that my grandfather sexually abused and raped me. It took me 30 years to talk about the other sexual assaults that I experienced. And now I'm here because I have my voice and I'm going to use it. And I am not going to stand by while Republican senators are encouraging rape culture. They're letting it happen when they say Kavanaugh is okay. So thank you, and let's stop him.
Sorry, I'm slacking a little bit. Thank you so much. We have a long lineup, a great lineup, but let me introduce you to our friend, dear partner, Deborah Ness, President for National Partnership for Women and Families.
Hello. I am honored to be part of the People's Filibuster, which has been going strong since last night. And you are all amazing. And I thank you. I thank every one of you for being here. I thank you for leaning into your agitation for a country that is just and equitable for all. And I thank you for standing up for our humanity and compassion as a people, for our quest for all women to be equal, and for all survivors to be treated with dignity and respect. Like so many of us here, I am appalled, I am deeply troubled, and I'm angry as hell at the state of our national leadership. This nomination is a tragedy for all of us, and it is a particular tragedy for women. This is a Supreme Court nominee who we knew from the beginning was not a good choice for women, for people of color, for immigrants, for our families. We knew he was going to be a disaster, that his appointment would impede our progress in achieving fairness and justice for all. And even as a nominee, he has already undermined the integrity of the Supreme Court. His nomination has turned the extremely important job of the Senate into a sham, a crass political process. It has generated callous disregard for women and survivors of sexual abuse. And we know even better now that this nominee is not a suitable choice for a lifetime appointment on our nation's highest court. Even when given the chance to tell the truth, he has continued to mislead the Senate and the American people about everything, from his disturbing behavior in high school and college, to his record in the Bush White House, to his testimony during his nomination in 2006. He has lied over and over again, even under oath. His outbursts and lack of professionalism during last week's hearing proved that he lacks the temperament befitting a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. And an unprecedented number of organizations who have never weighed into the Supreme Court nomination process have come out to say that Brett Kavanaugh is unsuitable for this job. But there's something else that is happening during this nomination that has me feeling more determined and more hopeful than I have in a long time. We have seen an outpouring of support all over this country for survivors. Yesterday, thousands of people marched on the Capitol and many were arrested in peaceful protest. Supporters are affirming the courage of Dr. Ford. We believe her. We still believe Anita Hill. And we believe Deborah Ramirez and Julie Swetnick. There is a reinvigorated movement of support for survivors and the democratic values of fairness and justice and inclusivity that are so fundamental to our nation. And this sea of energy has opened the floodgates. The tidal wave will not be turned back. Women everywhere are watching. We are paying attention. We are active. We will not be quiet, and we are not going back. We will keep fighting to the very end, and we will take this energy to the ballot box. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So next I want to welcome a couple more speakers. I want Alyssa and Liz come on up. Let's hear what they have to say. Give them a big round of applause, everybody.
Good afternoon. I stand here today furious, unafraid, and demanding to be heard. This is what I, as a survivor, know about sexual assault. Almost exactly 5 years ago today, I returned home early from a missionary service term in Ecuador. I had just survived rape. I was pregnant as a result of that rape, and I could not get back home soon enough to Iowa to be with my family and begin the lifelong road to healing. What I know about sexual assault is what Dr. Blasey Ford's bravery last week illustrated to all of us. No matter how far removed we are from the event of it in terms of time, healing from and overcoming it is a course that lasts a lifetime. That is not unlike a Supreme Court appointment that Judge Kavanaugh is aspiring to, yet that is where the similarities end. Surviving sexual assault overwhelmingly involves said survivors not only overcoming their own shame, but overcoming the shame of others, placed upon them through doubting, blaming, mocking, and silencing them. And as we have seen these past couple of weeks, it is a wonder how overcoming all of those odds is possible at all. Nonetheless, I am here today because I have overcome. As unvalidated as last week's events made me feel, I persisted, and I'm here today currently as an Iowa Coalition Against Sexual Assault board member, a University of Iowa MSW candidate, and I am working to promote a society free from sexual violence and to put our whole society on a path to healing from rape culture that permeates our every being. A Judge Kavanaugh confirmation single-handedly will set back not only my healing, but my fellow survivors' healing and the national process of healing, as well as it purports his entitlement to be more important than survivor worth and safety. I do not want a literal walking trigger warning seated at our nation's highest court. A nominee for this position should be upheld to the highest of standards, and as such, they must vote no. Now, you might wonder what came of that pregnancy I mentioned previously. And while I strongly believe in a woman's right to choose, and I'm thankful that I did have the ability to choose, I now have an almost 5-year-old daughter. This is her, and I hope that Senator Grassley will see her face and drill her picture into his head. They must vote no. They owe it to me. They owe it to all of my fellow survivors here today. And they owe it to my little girl to set a precedent when it comes to serious, credible accusations of sexual assault. With this vote, they can change our nation's tone, and they must vote no. And as said before, if they don't, we will remember, and here comes November. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm from Iowa as well. I just came to share a brief part of my story. Several years ago, if you were to ask me the most traumatic experience I've ever had, I would have said losing my mother to breast cancer at the age of 16. A few years ago, I would have said being sexually assaulted multiple times by a spiritual community leader. But now, if you were to ask me the most traumatic experience of my life, I would say speaking out and coming forward. January 9th, 2017 stands out amidst a long, difficult, painful process where I sought resources designed to protect and support me that ultimately installed fear and doubt.
This is Heidi Seek with Vote Pro-Choice. Heidi Seek with Vote Pro-Choice. We have been in coalition as part of the protest with the Women's March and the Center for Popular Democracy for weeks now. So we are actually out here at the Capitol Police Station. These are a few of the 602 protesters that were in the Hart atrium yesterday, expressing their disdain and protest against Brett Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court Justice. Now, I will say that the effort has been taking to express the truth to these senators is just extraordinary. The people that you see here online are really true patriots and heroes of democracy, without a doubt. And everybody's got stories, that's for sure. So my dear friends, we're all going in now to pay our fines. That's exciting. Yeah. No, I won't. Don't worry. And what do you think is at stake?
Me? You know, this is the battle for the soul of our country. I think that all the women and all the Americans who have stepped up in recent weeks are showing that when our government doesn't work for regular people aren't going to put up with that. We have swung more votes and more voices and built more power over the last several weeks on this issue than has ever been seen in a Supreme Court fight in recent decades. And the contestation of this nomination by regular people from all over America is incredibly powerful. It's not just the inside the Beltway usual suspects. It's not just professional politicians. It's folks that traveled here from all over the country, people that took buses, people that got on trains, people that stayed in parks to line up to go in and make their voices heard. And the use of direct action and civil disobedience in all these protests to demonstrate the emotional and ethical power of people putting themselves on the line, all of that has been really important for our country. We want to win this vote. We want to keep Kavanaugh at the Supreme Court. But if we lose this vote, that energy and that power is going to go straight into GOTV and voting in November, and we're going to get a Congress that will actually be responsive to the American people instead of a Congress that just takes care of billionaires and their lackeys in the judicial system.
So let's just get a sense of where we're at right now. We know at 3 o'clock that Susan Collins is going to go to the floor of the Senate and talk about what she's going to do in her vote. We have people that have been flying from Maine to talk to her and tell her to please be a hero, tell the truth, that we are telling the truth to believe survivors, and that she needs to vote no against Kavanaugh. But she voted yes this morning. So Susan Collins is still a mystery to us, to be honest. We also know that Joe Manchin, a Democrat from West Virginia, voted yes to proceed with the vote. And we aren't sure what he's going to do. We also hear from the GOP leadership that they aren't actually sure what's going to happen with this vote. So to all of you out there, I just want you to know that there's still hope. There really is. So West Virginia and Maine, let's still keep at it, put pressure out there, and please also, if you're around DC, come on down. There's just so much at stake. So here are some amazing women that travel from all across the country. Does anyone want to talk about why you protested yesterday and what's at stake? You know, like, oh, I love your T-shirt. Why are you protesting and what's at stake?
We can't have an attempted rapist, probably actually a successful rapist, on the Supreme Court.
No, that's right. That's right.
That's enough for me. A man who judicially backs up polygraph as an instrument for pre-employment qualification, who will not take one of his own for a job position that is probably with the most important in our government, has already told us what he did. To not listen to him. I believe her, and I believe millions of other women, and they believe me, and I see him, and he has told me his truth, and I believe him to be who he's let me know he is.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And you're one of the you're also one of the protesters that have been out here for weeks and weeks, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I received my 5th arrest yesterday.
Yeah. And these are truly like folks that are coming out as patriots and expressing our First Amendment rights to tell our senators what we really think about this Supreme Court justice nomination. It's just, there's just so much at stake, and so many people have stories about how this will impact their lives. So let's see, did anybody travel? Did any of you travel from far away to be here? Yeah. And what's at stake for you? Oh yeah, you traveled. You're Michigan. Michigan's in the house. Can you tell us why you protested again?
Sure. So I'm here with my mom. She inspired me to come in from Boston. My mom's in from Michigan, and we just think enough is enough. It's time for women to be believed, and we need somebody of fine character on the court, and so Kavanaugh just can't be it.
Yeah, that's so true. And you've been out here protesting for weeks and weeks.
Yeah, this is my 4th time. I've come down since the 6th of September. I was protesting before the allegations came out.
Yeah.
Because it is views on women's rights, on affordable health care, on affordable health care, on gay rights. Everything he stands for is wrong. It's not our country. We have come so far.
I imagine.
And if he gets elected, we're going to go back so far.
Yeah.
And then the allegations came out, and I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. And it was hard. It triggered me and empowered me at the same time.
I don't think so.
And he just isn't right. We need somebody
the votes
that
that a lot of
has
Republicans are taking our votes.
the country,
At least someone
I'm
understands
sorry,
not
the country
Yep.
not oh my God, everything he wants to do.
I'm retiring.
Yeah.
Bobby.
Thank you for being out here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, KK, what's at stake for you?
Oh my God.
Dylan wrote his
Anybody else? I'm so sorry. It's okay. Come on in. My body, my freedom, my femininity. Can you hear me?
We were scheming on your birthday present.
And I think that's felt collectively here. Like there's so many women who have come down from all over the country and are throwing down in the most beautiful ways. Whether they're singing together, whether they're getting arrested together, whether they're telling stories together. I think we all feel viscerally what's at stake and whose bodies are on the line if Kavanaugh gets confirmed. And we're not stopping. Like we're just not going anywhere. We've fucking been here for weeks. Even while it feels like the vote is going in one direction, we've got people occupying Manchin's office, Collins' office, Flake's office right now. And so we're here. And we won't go. And then when this is done, we go on to the next thing, which is we take back the House, right? So like we totally get that this is a long game, and women are ready to reclaim this country for themselves.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So you've heard some stories of the folks that put their lives and their bodies on the line yesterday, and they're continuing to do so. And I think one of the issues that continues to bother me a little bit is that there's that talking point from the other side about how this is just some sort of structured strategy of paid protesters. As a person that's been out here for weeks, literally weeks, I can tell you for sure that I am out here because it's an authentic expression of what I want from my country. And that's the truth. And I will tell you, all of these people here have been coming out because this is what's true for them. This is the country that they want to see is not run by these GOP senators. It does not have Brett Kavanaugh sitting on the Supreme Court. That is not the country we want to see. So that is what we are expressing. And we all understand that this is a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. We get that deeply. And all of us come to this fight with a priority of our own issues. You know, for me, I believe reproductive freedom is a foundational issue for all people in order for them to be able to, for everybody to be able to build authentic families and thriving communities that are authentic to them. And we absolutely know that Brett Kavanaugh is not supportive of reproductive freedom. We just know from his past decisions. So we are here as authentic expressions of America. And this is the thing. This is a true fight. So let's review the strategy today. We have at 3 o'clock, we're going to know what Senator Susan Collins from Maine is going to be doing. What she's going to talk about why she's going to vote the way she is. And we assume that we're going to hear from Manchin after that. There is still time. There are still phone calls to make. You can be calling Chuck Schumer, who is the Senate minority leader, to make sure that he is talking to his Democratic senators and making sure that they're bold and expressive. But again, it's West Virginia and Maine that we need you to be calling and still supporting and expressing yourselves to these senators. There is still a chance. However, if Brett Kavanaugh is confirmed, I just want to give you all a piece of hope. It's 31 days until the midterm elections, and I promise, and I know from what I have seen here for the last few weeks, that people are engaged and civically engaged and informed about voting as never before. So we know that they're going to be out voting in droves, in scores, and we're going to see a transformation of our democracy in any form, in some form. And I really do continue to believe that it will be better. I do. So I'm still going to say we believe that we can win. We're going to win something, right? We can say that. We believe we can win.
We believe that we can win. Office right now.
Okay. So everybody go to Colin's office right now. That's where we're going. It's all eyes on Main, 415 Dirksen, 413 Dirksen Street, Dirksen if you're near DC, and all eyes, all effort, all prayers to Maine, Susan Collins of Maine, and we'll be watching her for the 3 o'clock. Before I sign off, I just want to give a big shout out to the amazing organizers who have been supporting this incredible outpouring of expression of democracy, the Center for Popular Democracy, the Women's March, Housing Works, and also our team at act.tv who's been covering all of this through live stream to make sure that you see exactly what's going on, not through the eyes of corporate media, and also my beautiful team at Vote Pro Choice, who's made it possible for me to be here and is getting ready to create the largest progressive voter guide so you will all know what to do in 31 days, no matter what happens, because we're going to be voting informed, and we're going to be voting pro-choice. So I want to thank you all for everything that you've all done out there to support this incredibly important nomination fight, and I want to thank you all for your continued support. So, you know, all eyes on May.
No one's journey to recovery is the same. I am standing here before you today because 4 years ago, I left the highest court in the nation with the utmost respect. I never imagined I'd be standing here sharing a part of my life that pains me to retell. Our leaders have turned our backs on you, on me, and on thousands of other survivors. Senators, I urge you to vote no. Brett Kavanaugh is a threat to our community. To the survivors here today, I support you. I believe you. Thank you.